Hello, I'm Joy Ravella and welcome to episode 111 on the Everyday Joy podcast. I like the way that looks, 111. It's got a nice ring to it. Now, speaking of something looking nice, we all have this incredible ability to look at something and be able to enjoy God's nature, God's beauty, His creation. And with the gift of $33, you can actually provide sight-saving surgery that takes 12 minutes. It removes cataracts from individuals who can't otherwise afford this surgery in some of the most poorest nations. And you can have that impact right now thanks to CBM Australia. The link to that is in the description below. You can donate at miraclesday.com.au. Right now, though, let's get into today's Bible verse.
Honour God with everything you own. Give Him the first and the best. That's Proverbs chapter 3, verse 9 from the Message Bible.
I have got Jackie here in studio with me. Jackie, we've had some amazing conversations.
Loving the conversations, Joy.
Yeah.
Really loving them.
Yesterday's one was just pretty powerful. Go back and have a listen to it because we talk about having vulnerability and bravery with difficult situations and difficult people, but what that looks like in terms of inviting God into it and His heart for community.
Yes.
And relationship.
Yeah,
and
that was a goodie.
That was a goodie. Yeah. Now today's one is really interesting as well in a different sense because I think over the last 3 days we've been talking about our relationship with people.
Yes.
And in today's episode we hone in on our relationship with God. Proverbs 3:9, honour God with everything you own. Give Him the first and the best. What are your first thoughts on this one?
Firstly, I would think that seems like a pretty high standard.
Yeah.
How do we actually, do that, Father? What? But then when you settle down and you look at it a bit, we're going to honour God with everything we own. We're putting God first. Hold what you own, your wealth, your sufficiency loosely. Do with it what God asks you to do with it. Don't hold on to it.
Yeah.
And giving Him your first and your best means taking the focus off ourselves and what we want.
Yeah, I think of it the same way as well, Jack. First of all, it's like how do you put God first? But I think it really is actually a lot more simple than I think we think it is, because in any other relationship as well, I know that in most relationships we have our radar up and on for when we're not someone's first priority. Like we can tell when we're someone's afterthought or when we're just the backup plan. And so you might be saying to yourself, how do I live out this verse? How do I give God the first and best? There might not be a clear-cut answer, like a 10-step ways to show God that He's number one in your life. But in the same way, there's no manual for you to show that towards your spouse or your child or your co-worker. It's through relationship and it's through mostly, I think, intent, where your heart is at and where you've positioned yourself. And I think that's what I get out of my first impression with this one. What does this verse, Jackie, tell you about who God is?
I think it's telling us that He wants to be number one. Like He wants to be first in our lives. He doesn't want us to create, other little gods in our lives or worship our possessions or status. He wants us to give Him the first thought and the best thoughts. My take on this is very much that it's not just about things, that it's actually about God's position in our life. And that when we do this, when we honour Him, with everything we own. So if we, going to the, extreme example, I've got my drink bottle sitting here next to me and I can pick that up and say, thanks, God. Thanks for the way my body works. Thanks for the water. Thanks for giving me the vessel to be able to drink that from. That's an extreme example, but we can do that. It's that approach to life where we honour what He's done, where we honour where He's put us, where we honour the time that we're in, and give Him the first and the best. Not necessarily about giving away everything we have, but about maintaining our focus on Him and putting God in His rightful place. So it's giving him that first thought, giving him the best thought of the day. You know, you hear a lot of people talk about, you know, do your Bible study, do your reading when you first wake up in the morning, because it sets the tone for the day.
Yeah.
I think it's reiterating that in a different way and telling us not to get hung up on our earthly possessions and what we think we want and we think we desire most.
Yeah. I've had to learn this in a specific area of my life. I think we talked about this the other day, but with moving, we're moving at the moment, and it's stressful. And I have to keep reminding myself that God's in this, that God blessed us with an amazing place that we can move into. I'm noticing that I'm going down this little pathway here, but in every train of thought, in every activity that I have going on in my life, in almost every second of every single day, there's a way for me to put God first and to honor him in it. Even if it's just a thought of saying, God, you're here in this with me. Thank you that I have breath in my lungs. Thank you that I'm not alone.
Yeah. And we talked about this the other day when we said, you know, honor God with everything that you do. You know, work as if you're working for God, not people. And yeah, we were talking about it in the context of a workplace scenario, but it's the same thing, right? Look to God. Do it for him. Remind yourself, you're moving for him. You're moving because he's given you this blessing and this opportunity, and what you're doing to prepare to step into that blessing is for him.
Yeah.
And honoring him in that by actually starting to pack the boxes. Joy. You know, honoring him, putting him first in that process is what he wants.
Yeah. So it really is something that is more about your heart and your posture that you take in that space. Do you have a story, Jack, of how this verse has come alive in your world?
It's a bit of a funny one. And when I was thinking about, you know, what to share for this story, it really is a story more about putting aside my desire for all the new shiny things and actually honouring God in how I was using my finances and how I was managing my desire for, oh, it's shiny. Oh, I want that one. So I've just recently got a new phone. And I had a little bit of a laugh to myself because I had been putting off getting a new phone. I was trying to steward my finances well. B, I couldn't get a clear my conscience wasn't clear yet on going out and getting a new phone. And I went back and looked at how old the phones were that I'd had. Because I used to always get a new one. Like every 2 years I'd buy one on a contract with my, provider, and I would always get the next one. So as soon as I could get the next one, I'd get the next one. And I just loved having the latest phone. And, it was, even if it was only 0.3 of a second faster than the last one, right? I liked it. I liked being an early adopter, all of that kind of thing. So the phone I had before I got this new one was released in 2016. And it was a third-hand phone.
Oh my goodness.
That my daughter gave me after a friend gave it to her and she gave me her 2016 phone because my 2014 one had stopped working. So I went back and looked at this. I was like, oh yeah, flex on the how long you can make your phone last. But somewhere in between getting the new one now and having that phone that was new in 2014, that's a fair whack of time that went on there. It wasn't necessarily something changed in that time that was, for me, it wasn't as important anymore. And putting what God wanted me to do over my desire for the new shiny phone happened somewhere in that time where I stopped caring. I stopped seeing it as a status symbol that I had the latest phone. I stopped seeing it as just being cool, and I was happy. There was nothing in me that was unhappy with that phone. And the reason I got a new one was because I smashed the screen and it wasn't charging, and I had to sort of set up this gymnastic event just to get the charger to touch
it only works at 43 degrees,
right? Yeah,
pretty much upside down.
Pretty much that was exactly exactly what was happening. But prayed about it and said, God, I've got this opportunity for this deal here. I can get a new phone, and really felt at peace.
Yeah.
About stepping into that. So
that's a really great story there, because sometimes it does take a bit of time to change your perspective, to put God first, to honor him with everything first. That's not a switch you can just suddenly flick. It takes time. It takes intentionality. And maybe for you listening right now, you're saying, I love this verse. I just don't know how to begin. I just don't know how to start. Well, first of all, the fact that you want to start, I think, is already something worth celebrating. But for Jack, for that person who just wants to really apply this verse into their life, what's a really easy tip? How do you honor God in a really simple, practical way every day?
And I think it is like that one tip about, picking up, even if it is picking up your phone first thing in the morning when you wake up, don't instantly go to Instagram or Facebook. Click on the Bible app. Do a quick read. It doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be intense. Do a quick read. If you're studying something, read this verse and ponder upon it for 5 minutes. Then click Instagram.
Or you can check out this podcast as well. Yes.
You can also listen to the podcast. It's a very handy time frame.
Yeah, it just sets the tone for the day. That
certainly does.
It's a great tip.
And we love to have you listen.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, we will be back tomorrow. Jackie, you're wrapping up the week for us, and I'm so looking forward to tomorrow's verse as well. Now, a little quick teaser. If you are someone who's in a season of waiting, if you need a burst of hope, if you need some encouragement, that's the chat tomorrow. And Jack, I'm really looking forward to catching up again then.
Oh, it's going to be absolutely fantastic, Joy. I am so looking forward to it. Can't wait to see you tomorrow.
Proverbs chapter 3 verse 9, honor God with everything you own. Give him the first and the best. Today's application is going to sound ridiculous. I'm going to put it out there. It's going to sound a bit exaggerated, a bit over the top. But right now, I want you to have a look around you and pick one object around you. Maybe it's the chair you're sitting on. Maybe it's the car that you're in. Maybe it's the phone that you're holding. Maybe it's the clothes that you're wearing. But pick an object around you. And I want you to take 10 seconds time thanking God for it and honoring him with whatever is around you. Take it further. Pick about 10 different objects around you and just say thank you. I know that with the whole moving situation, had this awful experience a couple of nights ago where I left my phone in the hinge of the door. I know it was in the hinge of the boot area where that door light goes on. My door light stopped working, and so I thought, I'll just turn my phone on torch and I'll pop it in there. Unfortunately, I didn't let Ari know, and he closed the boot and my phone snapped in half. And we were just so done at that point, had been moving boxes all day, exhausted, and I remember saying to Ari, silver lining, what's one good thing about this? And he said, well, it's a relatively new-ish phone, so I guess you're not losing too much data or too many memories. And I said, okay, well, my silver lining is the fact that it's the phone that broke and not our fingers. So there we go. Thank you, God, for that. And so we just had to be really intentional, almost borderline ridiculous, with honoring God in that moment. And so you can take this practice into whatever you're facing today. Proverbs 3:9, honor God with everything you own. Give him the first and the best. This is a discipline. This is an attitude more than just a switch that you turn on and off. And today could be the day you start building that into the way you communicate, the way you think, and the way you respond to the way life throws things at you. That's Proverbs chapter 3, verse 9, and that wraps up today's episode on the Everyday Joy podcast. Don't forget to leave a written 5-star review, and I look forward to catching up again tomorrow.